Welcome back. It's Tuesday. You were tuned into the Music Board Podcast, where we give you the tools you need to build your vision, profit your passion, and live your best life in each and every episode. Today's guest is a very special guest because I watch him all the time on my social media, and I absolutely just love what he does. Today's guest is Jariuce Banks, more properly known as just Jehreeus, spelled phonetically, but it doesn't matter because it's a podcast and you could just hear what I'm saying. And he's a musician, a vocal arranger, producer, a mixing engineer. He's worked with artists such as Gene Moore, Jason Nelson, Janet Jackson, and many, many more artists. And in this episode, we discuss how he turned his passion and gift into a profitable business for himself, which I know is something that lots of you guys are interested in. So he's an incredible musician. If you don't follow him on Instagram already, especially if you love harmony, you got to follow him. I'll put his links to everything in the show notes. Just click on it and check him out. And if this is your first time listening, you just want to click that button, that subscribe or that follow button where you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so that you will be informed every time that I release an episode, a new episode, and you won't have to go through the hassle of searching for this invaluable content ever again. It'll just be right there for you. So thank you to all the listeners who have been screenshotting their phones, showing me they're listening. Please keep it up. It really just warms my heart to know that you guys are listening. And screenshot this episode now. And if you're listening, post it on your Instagram story and tag us at the Music Board Podcast on Instagram, and I'll repost it to show that you are listening and to show the support. Without further ado, let's get into this episode with Jariuce. Intro.
Loading.
Extra, read all about it.
It's a case study for success.
Be teachable.
What better way to learn than to just ask?
The learning process becomes a journey.
Turning dreams into realities.
Part of execution is totally believing whatever you're doing is going to work.
What are your passions and what are your gifts? And that's where it really starts.
Chances are for taking. Take a chance on yourself.
Any and everyone is capable of being a leader.
You're not going to have all the answers immediately.
Wow.
Mentors to expose you to things that you otherwise wouldn't know.
It was all I thought about in dreaming. Like I would literally get up in the morning, practice, because I knew the time would come.
Just do it.
That's what I travel and do most of the time. I'm also a musician, not professionally, but that's the root of my musical journey, basically, so to speak. So I've been a musician for about 16 years now, and I've kind of been traveling down different avenues musically, trying to figure out, what else I kind of do creatively to make myself a little more appealing, musically speaking.
All right, so you're listening to the voice of Jariuce, as stated earlier in the show, and we're talking about turning your passion into something profitable. But I want to give you guys a little bit of a backdrop and context story of how he got to where he is now. And he says some really important things in this little segment that I really want you to pay attention to, and we'll go into more detail further into the show.
There was a guy in my church, he played organ, and he wanted to teach me a song for like our little top male choir, so that I could play it on Sunday morning. And I can't remember what song it was, but that was my first instance actually learning a song and playing it on an instrument. Nothing before then actually ensued until that moment. So after that, I started getting more intrigued, and I think my ear started opening up, because then I was hearing songs on the radio, and I was like, that sounds like a fun song. And so I would every service after church, I would go to the organ and try to sit down and figure it out from memory, just based on what I heard. And the more I did that, the more I actually figured out I was learning songs the way they're actually supposed to be played. So I was like, you know what? Let's do more of this. So I started like buying CDs, and listening to them, like analyzing them. At this was like 8 or 9 by this time, and I was just learning the songs as close as I could to what the musicians were actually playing, what they were actually playing on the record. And I spent hours and hours doing that, like pretty much day in and day out whenever I wasn't at school.
So what Jariuce just said is honestly the first part that you really want to focus on if you want to make your passion as profitable as it possibly could be. You need to break down each part of what you're passionate about and what your gift is and what you have to offer to the world into its most minute pieces. Jariuce was breaking down each song like the record, making sure that all the parts were right to its most finest, to its most fine portions. And you have to do that if you really want to be successful in what you do. A question that's asked so commonly is, how do I differentiate my product in the market? How do I set myself apart? Well, it comes from being the absolute best at what your specific niche value is that you provide to your customer. Jariuce talks about this differentiation and setting himself apart a little bit in the next segment.
And I continued listening to songs, analyzing songs, doing that, and I started getting a little bit noticed as a musician in my hometown because a lot of musicians weren't really analyzing records like that. They were just playing it based off how well they could hear it as best as they could. But I was listening to every note, every detail, every nuance, every chord structure, every voicing, things like that, so I could play the song like the record, because that's the only way I could feel like I would do it justice, to play like the record. So there are a lot of guys all the time like, yo, like, you're crazy, man. I'm like, I just listen to the records like day in and day out, and analyze them. And I'm like, no, but there's something else to it. Like, do you hear things that we don't hear? And around the time, I actually discovered that I had perfect pitch maybe in 6th grade. I didn't know what it was before then, but at that time, I knew what notes were when I heard them, and I could sing them and reproduce them like quickly. So I was like, you know what, is that a thing? And so I did some research, and I found out it wasn't. I was like, okay, it's a thing. Cool, I have it. All right, cool. So I used that tool to help me learn records better. And when I was 16, people were like, yo, you have perfect pitch, don't you? I was like, yeah. No. They were like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, you found me. That's my thing.
Now, the thing is, Jariuce having perfect pitch wasn't what set him apart from his competition. What set him apart was that he spent hours and hours and hours breaking down those records to the most fine details. That's what really set him apart. You people often have this notion that if someone has something that you don't, that they are automatically better than you, and you count yourself out. But what the real differentiation is between you and your competitors or anyone else in the same industry as you is how much time and effort you put into what you do. Now, if you have both, you have the talent, the gift, and the passion, no one is stopping you. No one. And Jariuce just so happened to have that package. And I'm sure that each and every one of you has that package as well. So Jariuce has this passion and this gift. Let's see what he does next to share what he has to offer with the world.
Maybe around March of my senior year in high school, I discovered Vine. And at the time, I think I was already on Instagram, but I wasn't really into social media like that until I found Vine. Because I found all the people like creating videos and like singing whatnot, like visual effects or whatever. I was like, yo, this is bananas. Like, what is this? So I got the app and I was just looking at Vines day in and day out whenever I had time. And then I came across this group of singers called the Divine Harmonizers. And all they were doing was just harmonizing with people, like with their videos, like singing parts on top of the videos. I was like, what? That's a thing? People do that? Like, and it sounds amazing. I was like, I've never heard of anything like this in my life before. So I went to rabbit hole and like watched all their videos, like studied everything they're doing, like I did the records when I was a musician, and I was listening to everything they were doing note for note. And I was like, yo, okay, they did this. Gotcha, that makes a lot of sense. And so I was like, you know what? I wasn't tired of being a musician, but I was like, you know what? I kind of want to reinvent myself as a musician. Different. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, what if I like join them, but like put my own spin on it? Like, what if I just like, I guess, arrange. I know what arranging was, but I was like, what if I just sing the parts, sing every part that I would, and like translate it from the way I would play it on an instrument, but just sing every line the way I would play it, and just stack them and see what that sounds like. So, I one day I got inspired, and I just like arranged a little 6 second video for Vine, on my phone. I recorded it on my phone, every part. And then I think I posted it maybe 2 hours after I was battling myself against posting it, or whether posting it or not, because I was like, I don't know if this sounds good. I mean, I think it kind of sounds good, but I don't know if it'll do. I don't know if people will like it. Whatever. I just posted it, and that night, um, what happened? I think a couple of the Divine Harmonizers, like the original members, I think they DM'd me and were like, "Yo, this is stupid. Like, you did this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And I was like, "Yo, this is ridiculous, man. This is crazy." I was like, okay, I guess it worked out. So, yeah, exactly. And so I started like getting ideas for vines, like 6 second videos for vines, and just like putting my spins on different songs, like different covering different songs, like vocally, just like harmonies, and like the response was building and building. I was like, yo, people are actually starting to like this. This is kind of crazy. So I was like, this might be something else I could do.
So Jariuce discovered a platform, and he went out there and used his passion and his gift to create something. He just put it out to the world, and then he reacted to how people responded to what he gave. You'll never know if your idea or plan will work if you don't put something out there. Create a course, make an IG page for your art, start asking people in your area if they need computer repair services. Whatever it is that you have to offer, go out there and do something. Go out there and provide value for someone, and then respond by how they react to what you have to offer. And then try that over and over and over and over again, and test it out. And then eventually, I promise, something will catch.
I continued doing Vine until Vine passed away and passed away and Vine passed away.
Ha! Oh, this might be the funniest part of the interview to me. He said Vine passed away. That Vine is a whole person, and he had friends and family, and we really mourn the loss of Vine. We send out our condolences to all the relatives of Vine. We will deeply miss him and the legacy that... All right, let me stop. But even when a platform disappeared and stopped working, that didn't mean that Jariuce had to stop doing what he was doing. He continued on to something else and just moved his passion and his gift to a place where he could receive a profit or a return from it.
I think when I discovered Vine, I realized just how much of a tool social media can be in general. So I took that concept, and I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of went with ideas of how I could possibly get myself off the ground into doing more of what I was doing, but in a professional realm. I started posting the same videos I was posting on Vine, but on Instagram. But this time I would go and search for longer videos. Like at the time, Instagram was only do 15 seconds. So I would find 15-second video of people singing and harmonize the whole 50 seconds and post that. And I would see how the response would carry for that, because it's longer. So people would have to kind of pay attention a little bit longer than just 6 seconds. But surprisingly, the response gradually started growing as well. I was like, okay, cool. Now that I'm gaining some traction, how can I turn this into something that could be profitable for me, something that is appealing for people who want, what I do essentially as a product. So I think I wasn't really I wasn't really aware of the business side of it, more so the musical side. So, and the creative side, period. So I think at that time I started kind of designing my own little visual moniker or something to represent me, because I don't like showing my face like that. So, if there was like some kind of mark that I could post with my videos so that people would know that it was me, and then when they see it, I was like, oh snap, I know who this is. And that's when I came up with my alias, the Jehreeus, which is like the full phonetic spelling of my name. You just read it the way it looks, and you say my name correctly. That's all. And then shortly after, the little the water droplet moniker came after that. So I started combining that with my videos. And then shortly after, I made my email address available too. And I put in my bio, like, email me for rates or email me if you want bulk arrangements or whatever. And I think when I was 21, this was math, 2016, right? I think, yeah. That's when I got my first DM from an actual artist who wanted my vote. He wanted me to arrange vocals for his project, and I was like, wow, it worked. Like I had no type of EPK, no type of management team, nothing like that. All I had was my videos, my email address, and my logo. And he hit me up. He was like, "Yo, I want you to arrange some vocals for my album." And I was like, "Seriously? Like,
Right. Oh,
wait,
it worked. What
seriously?"
next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It worked. Like this worked. And like this is not the most solid plan, but it still worked. Okay, cool. And after that moment, I was like, okay, I think we got something in place. My older sister, she's been helping me with it since I was growing up, and she knew that the potential that I had, she saw the potential in me. So she's been helping me a lot, especially with the business side of things. So I just asked her like what kinds of things I need, like besides the arrangement part, because I got that down. And she basically told me like things like turnaround time, also rates that would be reasonable for artists and things like that. And shortly after, I started learning more and I started connecting with more people who were in my industry or in my realm of industry. And I asked them questions and I learned from there.
Jariuce didn't wait till everything was perfectly planned out. He didn't wait till all the funnel systems and the right marketing and having the right influencers and the perfect product. He just set up what he had, set up shop, and ran with it, put himself out there and said, hey, maybe something will come to me. And sure enough, once he put himself in the proper opportunity for something to happen, an opportunity came. I know you want everything to be perfect. I know how it goes. I know you really do. But the bottom line is it's not going to go perfectly. So you might as well just start now. Set up that email account, set up that business account, and just run with it. Put yourself in the way of opportunity and see what gets in the way. You might surprise yourself and come across something just like Jariuce did.
Within the same year and after that gig, I got an email from this woman who worked for a marketing team, and they were running a campaign for Pitch Perfect 2, I believe. Yeah. And she found me on Instagram, ironically, and she wanted me to arrange an acapella video for one of the songs in the movie, which was Crazy Youngsters, Esther Dean. And she wanted me to just arrange a 15-second acapella video for the campaign, promoting the premiere of the movie. And I was like, is this real? Wait, this is a premiere of an actual movie. Like, she's on a marketing team. Like, no, there's no way. And I kind of went about it, not nonchalantly, but I went about it not thinking about it too much because I was like, no, this can't be real. And shortly after, like, that was a real thing. I saw more people who were doing it, like actual celebrities who were doing it as well. I was like, wait, I just got asked to do a campaign with celebrities. Like, what? And I just started doing this. This is shortly after I got my first gig ever writing vocals for someone's album. By the way, his name is Gene Moore. He's awesome. He's an amazing singer. Shameless plug.
No, yeah,
but,
plug.
I was like, yeah, right. But I was like, this is crazy. And then when I got that check, I was like, okay, all right. Now it's game time. Let's get this off the ground. Let's do some more of this. Let's actually get on the ground running and figure out what else I need so I can really have some longevity in this. 2015 is when I met Gabe Kunda. I met him when I first got to Dallas to go to school, and I met him like 3 days after I moved, literally.
Wow.
And
so was he in school there too?
He was at the time.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He graduated from DBU, or Dallas Baptist University.
Okay.
But we were both getting ready to go to school, and we met on Vine like the year before. We kind of connected through Vine, so we were like talking through Google Hangouts and FaceTime or whatever, and creating stuff together, kind of then, just having fun. But when I moved, we actually decided to meet up and like decide to create together, like in person, like on a kind of regular basis. And so that summer, Gabe connected with a producer named Symbolic One, who's Grammy Award winning. He's platinum selling, working with Beyonce. He's the Kanye Wests, the Jay-Z's, people like that.
Sheesh.
And when he got back from that, the next time we met up, he talked to me and he was like, yo, S1 does these things called like vocal packs, vocal kits, and like basically it's just sample packs rather, and it's just packs of like samples of music.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he'll produce stuff or he'll sample records or whatever and add stuff to it.
Right.
And I was like, interesting. He was like, yeah. So like, what do you think about us like doing something like that, but with vocals? Like, we do harmonies all the time. What if we actually like create vocal harmony samples and like sell them? And I was like, I don't. That sounds interesting. Like at first, I was like, I don't know if that will work, but like the more you start talking about, it, I was like, okay, maybe this could be something we could actually invest in.
Yeah.
So shortly after that conversation, we started just recording, random vocal ideas. No focus really, just like getting musical ideas out of our heads vocally. And eventually we kind of got some strategy going as to what kind of products we wanted to release. So we kind of got ideas for the kind of genres, the kind of styles we wanted to delve into.
Yeah.
And that led us to our first kit, which was basically the idea of reversible samples that sound one way forward, but they sound totally different musically backwards. And that was literally our first product together working with vocal samples. And we released it. We didn't have a website at the time. We didn't have a team that would push it to people or help us sell it, period. So we were kind of handling sales on our own. And after we released it, the response was actually kind of overwhelming.
I can imagine, because I definitely would want one.
Listen, right. And it was basically too much for one person to handle. But I was like, okay, this was cool. This was our first kit. And it wasn't really a full product, but it was a tester to see the kind of response we would get. And the response was definitely better than we expected. So it was at that time, and this was 2017 when we released our first kit. So at that time, I was like, okay, we have our first product, so let's go ahead and work on some more products, because this is going to be a thing. This is a thing for real.
Jariuce has started to gain traction. He cracked down on his passion, and he differentiated himself by becoming the absolute best at what he specifically did. He put himself out there in the way of opportunity. He tested things out, see how his audience reacted to it, and now he's getting a few clients in the door who are paying him to do what he loves to do, because he put himself in the way of opportunity to happen. Now he needs to take it to the next level, and he created something that catered to his audience. He created a product, something that could pour some more monetary funds into what he's doing. I also want you to notice that he didn't do that on his own. He had a friend, he had a partner, he had some outside source of inspiration to help him make this product. Don't think that you have to do it all by yourself. Reach out to friends, reach out to colleagues, reach out to people who you know can help you and are like-minded in your industry. When he catered to a need that he proposed his audience might have, the product blew up. And as you heard, they couldn't keep up with the amount of sales. All the things that Jariuce did prior to this gave him the awareness of his audience that he needed and the credibility behind him to release this product and make it successful.
I got a call from a friend of mine that I met when I first moved to Dallas. His name was Lawyer Turner. And he asked me, hey, can I give my cousin your number? And I was like, who's your cousin? He was like, his name is Daniel Jones. He's a producer at MD. And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know what for. I was like, okay, cool. And so he gave him my number, and Daniel called me. And I was like, yo, what's up, man? I have a gig for you. I'm getting ready to go on tour with Janet as her MD, and I would really love for you to record some vocals and arrange some vocals for her tour. And I was like,
Janet who?
Exactly. Like Janet Jackson, like Michael Jackson's Janet Jackson's sister. And he was like, yeah, like I want you to record some vocals for a tour. Like I want to actually play them on the tour while she's singing with them. And I was like, I don't even know you like that, but like stop playing with me. And he was like, no, I'm serious. I think your voice would be perfect. I want something that sounds modern. And I was like, okay, send me the songs and tell me what you want to do, and I'll do it. So he sent me the songs, and that night, he sent me 3 songs that night, and then like later on before the tour, he sent me 1 more song to add. But I recorded all the vocals that night, and I sent them to him. And after the fact, I was like, okay, I still don't understand what's happening right now. So these vocals, like people are gonna hear these vocals at the tour, like at every show. Is that seriously what's gonna be? No, definitely not. And so to my to my surprise, he gave me a free floor ticket to the show in Dallas. And I went to the show not expecting to hear my vocals. I was just thinking that it was for something else that was gonna be like around the show or whatever. But sure enough, she started performing one of the songs that I recorded vocals for, and I heard my voice on the speakers, and she was singing along to my vocals. And I'm in the front row, like, I couldn't breathe. I didn't breathe for like 10 seconds. I was like, that's my voice on the speakers, and she's singing along with my vocals. Like,
wow.
No one else around me knows what's happening right now but me.
Right. The thing
So,
is, like, you're hearing this. Do you realize that that's me
exactly.
right now? Like,
right. Like, yo, that's me on the speakers. That's my voice on the speakers. Like, it was it was the most surreal experience I've ever experienced in my life. It was absolutely crazy. And not to mention, I got to meet her afterwards, and she told me that I was amazing and that I sound amazing. And I could have died at that moment, and I would have been fine.
wow. He went from playing organ at his local church to singing vocals for Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson. And got paid for it. Man, this shows that being profitable from your passion is quite possible. You really just have to provide unreplicable value.
I was like, okay, maybe if I really just work on making what I do valuable and make it appealing for artists who want something like that, I'll get more opportunities. And shortly after that, I think I've saw progression in my quality, like the quality of my vocals, the quality of my arrangements, the quality of my interaction, and things like that. And opportunities started flowing in more and more. And eventually, I had to say no to some of them, or delay some of them because I was too busy at the time.
Wow. So I asked Jariuce to close out, if he were driving down the street and he had a billboard that everyone could see. You guys have probably heard this question before if you listen to the podcast regularly. And if he had a message that he could tell to everyone that rides on that road, what would it be? Here's his answer.
I would say dream vividly and don't be afraid when it actually happens.
So now we understand that in order for your passion to be profitable, you have to break down what you're doing to its most minute portions, being the absolute best at that specific niche value that you offer to your customer or client. You have to be willing to push yourself out there a little bit. You might not have it all together. It might not be perfect. You might not have everything perfectly planned out like how you want it, but just give yourself the opportunity to be noticed. Test out some things, see if it works, see how your audience reacts to what you're providing, and then make adjustments from there. Continuously feed your audience value. Provide them with things that they care about, and they will react to what you are doing. Engage with them, and once you notice that you have a little bit of traction, provide something big that you know that they will love to use. Make that product, and they will invest in you and your product. As long as you keep providing value, the customers will keep rolling in. And as Jariuce said, dream big. And don't be surprised when it actually happens. Keep building your vision, keep turning your dreams into reality, and keep turning your passion into something that is profitable. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Jariuce was an awesome guest. Great guy as well. I will put all of his links and handles in the show notes. Make sure you check him out. He is awesome. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Muse Report, and I will talk to you next week. Peace.
Oh, that's the end of our MRP episode. Thank you for listening, everything, but it's time to go. We'll have a new one for you next week on the flip side. But until then, don't kill the vibe, subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Don't kill the vibe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe.
Hey guys, Clee here. Thanks so much for listening to the Build Your Vision podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would think you did if you stayed all the way to the end. The best thing that you could do to help support this show is by sharing it with somebody. By you just taking a few seconds to recommend this show to somebody, you are making a huge impact, not only on the success of this show, but possibly on that person's life.